Hey everyone. So, before I get started with the topic of the video, I do want to say this could very well be my last YouTube video for quite a while. And the reason is I'm losing motivation with YouTube. They are getting worse and worse by the day. And with this new platform, Utreon, it's only a matter of time before Utreon just sort of takes over. I've warned YouTube in the past what would happen if they didn't fix things. And now that they've refused to fix things, a new platform has come along. Once it takes off, I'm starting to lose motivation for YouTube because I can't grow and, well, because of this, I can't spread my message. On top of this, is there much point anymore when Utreon is probably going to take over? So anyways, that's why I haven't been uploading much lately. I just haven't been motivated with all the tyrannical crap YouTube is doing. But with that out of the way, let's get on with the video. I want to talk about my top 5 favorite Yu-Gi-Oh decks. So recently I did something kind of similar. My top 5 favorite Yu-Gi-Oh archetypes. But that video is already kind of outdated because I don't want to get too much into it, but I've sort of been reborn as a Yu-Gi-Oh player, and as such, things in that video may be kind of off. So this video is talking specifically about decks I like to play. With that said, let's get into the list. So, actually, at number 5 on the list is Tear Some people who know me would probably expect this to be higher. The problem I have with Tier Elements is they're broken. They are top tier. And I don't like playing the Tier 0 deck. I mean, you hear Tier Elements and Splites talked about at the same time a lot. They're often ran with Despia, which people already hate. I don't like winning duels because I'm playing one of the most broken decks in the game. But if they would just stop printing broken, bloody support for an already broken deck, and honestly, I wish they would nerf it, not give it cards like Tier Element Scream, which is basically making grass illegal for an already meta deck. If not for all that, probably would be higher. But it's because it's way too strong that it only takes the number 5 slot on this list. And number 4 is the deck that kind of, in a way, saved Yu-Gi-Oh! For me. Not in the sense that I loved the deck so much it brought me back into the game. More, when I was reborn as a duelist, I needed to start over on Master Duel. I don't want to get into why, long story, but when I did, I needed a cheap deck, and I was more leaning towards the aggressive playstyle. So I decided to go for Bird Up, which for those of you who don't know is Lyralisk Tri-Brigade. And it's a fun deck. I made mine more of an OTK build, less of a I'm going to set up 5 negates and end my turn build, but it's fun when you build it to suit you, not the meta. But again, it still has that problem that it is Tri-Brigade, and it has the problem of just being a bit too strong for me. That's my main issue with Bird Up and Tier Elements alike. Bird Up is just a little bit more fair, I guess. Like, yes, it's still Tri-Brigade, but Tier Element competes with Splites, so at number 3, this one was actually a bit difficult to pick, but I'd still say it's Chaos. Chaos decks refer to decks utilizing light and dark monsters in your graveyard for a for a multitude of different plays. This is cards like Chaos Dragon Legionnaire. I guess you could consider Dad, Dark Arm Dragon. Blackluster Soldier, Envoy at the beginning. These are the kinds of cards that are what is called Chaos. The entire Thunder Dragon deck is basically a Chaos deck, using cards like Chaos Space, Allure of Darkness, these kinds of things to generate consistency and set plays up to demolish the board and go in for game. That's basically what a Chaos deck is. So, yeah. Number 2 was also a bit difficult to pick, but I'd have to say it's Machina. For the time being, I'll admit I haven't actually played Machina yet because I'm still trying to build it in Master Duel. I'm missing a few cards, but Machina, as in pure Machina, is stronger than people give it credit for. It's able to spam out machine monsters to the board, including their extremely powerful boss monster, Machina Citadel, which is a walking, recurring Regaiki. And it can just board nuke the opponent every single turn. So yeah, Machina is pretty cool. It also can make boards, like absolutely ridiculous boards, such as 4 Material Appaloosa, Citadel, Draglubian, and I forget what the card that they always summon off of Draglubian is. I think it's Hope Harbinger. But honestly, I just sort of picked this deck because I see potential for it to be in the top picks. And finally, my number 1 favorite deck to play, the deck of all decks for me, is Bee Trooper. I've always been an insect fan, and Bee Trooper is sitting right on the line where it's very good, but it's also not too good. Bee Trooper's biggest strength is also its biggest weakness. It's hard to explain without sounding self-contradictory, but basically they are a control deck that likes to take resources away from the opponent with their big boss monster, Giant Bee Trooper Invincible Atlas, which is a 3K beat stick that can summon stuff from the deck with targeting and effect destruction protection. But Atlas has a big weakness as well, where he only has his protection if he doesn't break 3K attack. So what this means is cards as pathetic as, say, Smile World can counter Atlas because they raise the attack of all monsters on the board. Therefore, his attack rises above 3K, and he's basically a big beat stick with no protection at that point. So he has a pretty big weakness, but you have to keep in mind, in addition to Atlas, Beat Troopers can set up 2 to 5 negates in a turn, while also setting up Mighty Neptune, which not only recurs stuff from the banish pile, which is really good with Armor Horn banishing things to summon itself back, which Mighty Neptune also helps you go in for game, but because not only does it revive itself every turn, but it can buff up the attack of another insect monster you control every end phase. So say you control Twin Bow for 2 turns along with Mighty Neptune. You end up with Battle Wasp Twin Bow the attacker at 3K attack, able to do 6K points of damage in a single turn because it can attack twice. It's not the greatest effect ever. You more use it for the recycle effect, but the attack helps. One thing you have to be careful about is you never want to use this effect on Atlas, because then you're basically making Atlas a beater for no reason. Sting Lancer can search the Flying Sting Trap, which is absolutely broken. It's a straight-up monster negate that can negate anywhere from hand traps to freaking negates. You can literally negate a negate with it. You can negate hand traps. It can negate any monster effect. And for the small cost of banishing an insect from your graveyard, for example, Resonance Insect, which then can use its effect to send Goki Pole to the graveyard and get you a search, you end up with being able to, every single end phase where you didn't activate the card, or is it standby phase? That's the one part I can't remember. This is the one card I don't know for sure. Duels don't usually last very long with it, so I usually only use this effect once. Anyways, I can't remember if it's during the standby phase or the end phase, but you're able to banish an insect from your graveyard to add, I think it's added back to your hand. No, I think it's set it. Yeah, it's set it. I'm not like have every single card memorized to a T yet, but I love the deck, but I'm not exactly so much of a master that I know every single card, letter for letter. No, I'm not that obsessed with the deck. But Flying Sting also doesn't banish itself after you use it the second time. You can continue to recur it constantly. Now, it sounds like a deck with a lot of resilience and negating power. So what's its problem? So it has Brawn, it has a grind game, it has resilience. But here's where things get a bit self-contradictory. Beat Troopers don't do crap if they get shut down early combo. They're resilient once they get going, But if your opponent can shut you down early combo with, say, Called by the Grave, Ash Blossom, Nibiru, and Ghost Bell, you're not going to fare very well. It's very hard to stop them early, and it's really hard to break their board once they establish it. But if they go second, they are at a much greater disadvantage because early combo, they're very vulnerable. But once they get going, it becomes one of the hardest decks to break through. It becomes a deck where, in order to break their board, you're likely giving them advantage while costing yourself a lot of card advantage. So it turns into a deck that forces the opponent to sacrifice a lot of resources to get through. But if your opponent can break their plays before they really get going, you're going to struggle. That said, they're also very good at follow-up plays. So if they can just set up a board strong enough to survive, they can usually come back. But if they use up their resources, they have no way to come back from that. So their problem really is that they're very heavy on resource costs, and they need to get their plays going in order to really recycle these resources and keep the resources flowing. But once they do get these plays set up, once they do get their grind game enabled, it's very hard to bring B-Troopers down. They still die to floodgates such as Skill Drain or There Can Be Only One, but at the end of the day, what deck doesn't die to Skill Drain or There Can Be Only One without being able to remove it? I don't know crap about splites, but I think even splites die to Skill Drain. So B-Trooper is my favorite deck. Bit of a sleeper deck. People don't realize how strong it is. I'm guessing because it's an insect deck. But B-Trooper is actually very, very good. It's not anything meta. Simply because it does play a good number of Garnons in the form of Resonance Insect and Goki Pole. But these Garnons are a cornerstone of a lot of your strategies, and you need Resonance Insect to, say, search Mighty Neptune. And you need Goki Pole to search Resonance or Mothman. Mothman just being a good way to get an extra monster on the board. I only play one copy, but as in Danger Mothman. But then you play cards like Gold Sarcophagus, which if you don't need to banish Resonance in order to foolish Goki Pole, it's kind of pointless to draw into this. So you do have a lot of cards that are potential Garnets. But at the same time, the deck's still consistent because every card that's not a Garnet is a potential starter. So the deck is just all around. It's a very versatile, resilient deck that's good at robbing your opponent of resources while it tries to end the game. That's all there really is to it. It's a lot stronger than a lot of people think. It's not bad because it's an insect deck. It's actually rather good and able to compete with some top tier decks like in Master Duel anyways. I almost beat Adventure Prank Kids with it. Even though I know nothing about Adventure Prank Kids, the only reason they were able to beat me in the end wasn't even one of their own cards. It was access code, because access code can beat over Atlas. It was that simple. So that's something they've got to watch out for. They really don't want to let the opponent summon anything capable of beating over Atlas, because Atlas is the main thing you're trying to protect while you go in for game. Anyways, that's my list. Bit of a weird one, I know. Not what you would expect, but those are my top 5 favorite decks to play. Machina was a bit of a wild guess, because I needed a deck for that slot and I didn't know what to put there. So I guessed it would be Machina. And with that, I know this was a bit of a long video, but I'll see you all next time.